Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. Spencer Israel here with Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick. Hope you all had a nice, enjoyable, long 3-day weekend. We have a busy show ahead this morning. A lot of earnings coming in. Walmart, Home Depot, MGM. Also have some weekend news in Bitcoin we'd like to discuss. Some M&A action in Rite Aid. Again, taking out the remainder of their stores there that weren't bought by CVS. And our guest today is Nick Chahine. He's the author of Create Income with Option Spread. Joel, tell us how we're doing in the S&Ps.
We're in the red by 10.5 handles. Real nice range overnight. Early Sunday evening, we hit 47.75 and then big reversal down to 09 even here. So Dennis thinks we're going right back to new all-time highs. We'll talk with him about that in a few minutes. Bitcoin, we have a story on that. We'll cover that in a few minutes. The futures are trading in the green here by $230 at 11,500. The cash right in that area as well. So well over 5,000. Crude in the red by 46 cents at 61.91. Gold just dancing above and below 13.50, but now in the red by 7.30 to 13.41.60. And then you have silver under $17, down 12.5 cents at 16.49.5. Dennis, did you get a lot of work done yesterday since it was not a holiday for you?
We have family day in Canada. Family day. I took my kids skating and I took my kids swimming. So that was my work. It was to keep the boy happy. Did some skating. We did some swimming. I'll tell you, I've never been in a pool that was that busy in my life because it's a holiday in Canada. It's family day. And they even said there at the pool, the lifeguards were saying, I've never seen the pool that busy. It was literally like 100 people in the pool.
Where at?
I was
so
I was slightly disgusted when I was in there, kind of obviously envisioning a lot of kids and a lot of potential pee in the pool. So, but I tried to forget about that. Had a good time with my kids swimming.
Where at? Is there a YMCA or something? Or
pools? We have pools. Believe it or not, it's not just frozen over in Canada. It's not just the tundra. We actually have pools in Canada as well, indoor pools. So, no, in Lakeshore there. So it was nice. It was fun. Had a good time. Just tried to forget about all the pee that I was swimming in, though.
Okay. All right. I'll have to get over there and give Spencer some swim lessons soon. So I guess there's a couple big stories. I know you wanted to touch on the rally in Bitcoin here. So I'll let you and Spencer go at it on that.
Joel's scared on this one. So, not about the rally, but just talking about, okay, so Spencer, do you want to give the details? Do you got the headlines in front of you?
Well,
we're all scared to give the headlines because we don't know.
Well, okay, I'll give the headline in context. So remember back in December when South Korea said they're going to ban Bitcoin exchanges. Then about a month ago, they said, no, we're not going to ban them. We're just going to have some licenses, and it's going to be called a bit license. We're going to try to regulate it. Well, over the weekend, the top regulator in South Korea was the top Bitcoin regulator was found dead in his home at the age of 52. So it looks like now there will be even less regulation on Bitcoin than there was going to be before.
Well, not only that, now there's a Bloomberg Markets article here that's saying Bitcoin's rebounds after South Korea signals it will now support normal cryptocurrency trading. So their regulators are already saying, yeah, we'll support this now. So just to, Cole's notes, okay, South Korea is going to do some banning on cryptocurrency trading. The head regulator that was in charge of that is found dead over the weekend. And now South Korea is saying, okay, maybe we'll support normal crypto trading. Joel's being silent in the background because he's scared for his life here right now at Pre-Market Prep. Spencer and me, we're scared for our life too. And maybe we won't go in there too much detail either. And going forward, Pre-Market Prep will only support Bitcoin trading.
No, Dennis, you had a great point on the pre-market show, which is, if you're short this thing, you got a lot of people on the other side. So that's what you're fighting against.
Powerful people on the other side that will do anything to get the price higher, apparently. So, I mean, we've talked about regulated markets, and obviously our markets over here in the US, our equity markets are highly regulated, but there's still manipulation even on our exchanges. We have layering, we have different people going to jail, different cases being brought against, traders all the time for possible manipulation schemes. In other countries where obviously regulation a lot lower, it's going to be a lot easier to manipulate the price. So I believe, and I've said this before, that the price of cryptocurrencies, all of them, are probably highly manipulated. And when you have stuff like this happening, it makes just more, into my whole thesis of, the price is manipulated. So also, the point that I was making is you are fighting the tape here because there's a lot of powerful people on the other side and that want the price higher. So you do have to fight. If you're shorting, cryptocurrencies up here or betting against them, you've got to fight the people who are manipulating the price higher. So that's all I'll say about that because we value our lives here on the show. So sorry, people over in South Korea, we're not saying anything bad about cryptos. We're just saying that it's interesting that the head regulator is now dead.
Yeah, I mean, they could have waited like a day or two or something, afterwards to. I mean, okay.
Joel's very silent in the background. He's scared.
No comment. That was.
Is it because you're 52 years old?
50. That was
a coincidence?
That was a few years ago. All right, let's get
moving on to our regulated markets where we feel safer to talk about them.
Walmart.
Oh, Walmart earnings. Walmart's getting the beats here this morning. What's going on? Holy cow, it's down $7 now.
Yeah, Walmart Q4 adjusted EPS of $1.33 versus $1.37. Estimate sales of $136.3 billion versus $134.9 billion. So a mixed report there. A miss on the EPS, a beat on the sales. They're also raising their quarterly dividend from 51 cents to 52 cents per share. And that's all I got.
Good beat down. I will tell you, there's some major support down here, though. If you look at the chart and go out to the dailies, you can see lots of support, 96, 97 back in November and December. Our recent sell-off there when everybody was throwing everything out was 96.43 was the low back on February 9th. That was when the Dow had its little crash, and then we bounced back, obviously, 1,000 points in the afternoon. So that's a bogey I'm looking at here from trading Walmart, 96.43. I don't know where it's traded pre-market, but Joel, he tracks that action.
Yeah, I do. And you know what? They are just walking this thing down ever since the report came up. Big red bars. You just hit a pre-market low of 97.75. That's actually held up here. Two brackets, but we're fresh into the other one. We will keep an eye on the 97.75. You did during the little tizzy last week or a few weeks ago. You did hit 96.43. You do have a series of lows in that area from November. Just the only thing that's just kind of a little bit worrisome here is that you gapped up after its last report. You had a gap from 90.86 to 94.72. So that 94.72, once you fall into that gap area, then you're looking down to 90.85. I don't think we're going to see that today here, but I think maybe over the next couple of weeks here, you could go down. That's where I'm interested. I'm maybe on a day trade, or a cover short here. I'm sticking my neck out at 96 and a quarter. But on the longer term, I think you can get this thing closer to $90, $91.
Also reporting big reports this morning. Obviously, we had the long weekend and everybody's waiting for this big Tuesday morning because other big reports here. Home Depot trading up another $4 to, well, not an all-time high, but to a most recent high here, 191. Obviously, we're up way over that 207 back in January when everything got a little bit crazy and a little bit frothy. But we're trading back up over $190 here again. So big psychological level. Spencer, details on that earnings report.
Yep, the Q4 adjusted EPS $1.69 versus $1.61 estimates. Beat sales of 23.9 versus $23.66 billion. Good Q4 numbers there. As far as guidance, they see sales growth in the 6.5% range. EPS number for the fiscal year coming in higher than the estimate by 11 cents. They're also raising their quarterly dividend to 15% to $1.03 per share.
Big pop. Joel, talk to pre-market
much
action.
Higher.
What are you seeing? Walking higher?
Well, no, he did get a print up at 195, but people have calmed down after that print. You know what I'm looking at here, Dennis? You had an all-time high made on January 29th at 207.25. 0.61. Your low of the move was 175.42. For simplicity's sake, let's just call that, what, a 32-point move. 16, you had 16 to 75, 191, 192 right here. Figure out your exact 50% retracement, and I expect that to be a battleground today. Trading up 430 at 190, 130. I'd say, keep it. I don't think you're going to see that pre-market high, but do your exact number in that 50% retracement. A close above that would be good for the stock going back to all-time highs. But once again, a kind of a scenario of some overhead supply. A lot of people long this thing over $200.
Lowe's getting a sympathy move here this morning. LOW is trading up almost $1 here in the pre-market, 80 cents. They usually report a couple days later. I'm not sure what the date is scheduled on them. If you've got it in front of you, you can let us know. I don't have it in front of me. But it's trading up 1% in the pre-market. So,
Lowe's
these two stocks are paired well together.
Lowe's is the 28th before the bell. So next Wednesday.
Week. Okay, so just over a week.
Big T agreeing with me there. 190, 150 seems to be the 50% retracement. That's what we're trading now. So if you had bought this on the dip, that could be a nice target for you today. And so did we do Domino's Pizza yet?
No, and you know what's really interesting, Domino's Pizza? This is back, and this is a stock that got absolutely crushed back in the second half of 2017. We got up to $221.58, and then we sold all the way off to $166. They hit it hard. It's back. It's back at all-time high. So BTFD winning again here on DP Zebra. New all-time highs for Domino's Pizza. Like I've said, I actually think they're one of the best franchise pizzas out there.
We got a lot of dividend raises today. So they're also raising their dividend from 46 to 55 cents per share and announced a $750 million buyback as far as their earnings go. Q4 adjusted EPS $2.09 versus $1.95 estimate. Sales of 891 versus $906 million. So mixed report, but dividend raises plus a buyback equals good movement.
Equals higher price. And DP Zebra, it's a breakout to all-time highs, Joel. Like this is a big breakout on the chart, really, too, when you look at it, because we had that level obviously back in April, May, June when we got up to 220 multiple times. We sold off. We've come back. We went and tested it there just a couple weeks ago when the market was getting frothy at the end of January when we got up to 221. Sold off again. Now we're back up here and breaking out to new all-time highs. So third time's a charm here. Are we off to the races in DP Zebra?
I mean, you got a crazy print here, right on the headline number, up to 230, 210. Had over 100.
Those algos get excited.
Yeah, hey, you had
especially when they haven't had a chance to trade for a few days.
Right, and this is decent volume trading on that bracket too. You've backed off that high though. I mean, from that high, you got all the way near yesterday's high. This thing is just all over the place, Dennis. I guess the only thing I would say, and this is kind of maybe stretching a little bit. I mean, did you see the run that Deere had on Friday and then where it ended up closing the session?
Deere was wild. Yeah. I traded it on Friday. I know, and we talked about it on the pre-market show. I had a short coming in, and I actually covered in the pre-market down in the 163 handle, I think, or 164. So it was down $3 or $4, and I was like, that's pretty solid. Covered it, and that morning, so it opened up down near like 162, 163, and then in the next hour it ran $10 up to 173. Obviously got way up even farther than that, making new all-time highs at 175.26, and then giving it back at the end of the day towards 169.44. So it was a complete wild child on Friday.
Yeah. So who was I in the chat with? I think it was maybe DC1 when it was playing the 170s and the 175 calls and that, and for the expiration. And I'm looking at that thing and it's like 172.5, 173. And he's like, hey, look at the chart. What do you think here? And I'm thinking, man, I would have been out of those a long time ago. And I think he ended up covering some, and then it went to 175 and change. And I'm like, I felt kind of bad. And then I look back later on in the day. And so just be careful. I mean, if you have some targets here, Domino's, you like 230, that was your exit point, take your target, or at least take half off, because these things, if a big institution, this is a higher price stock, it's kind of thin, big institution comes in and says, hey, I want to sell $1 million down to 220. They're going to sell $1 million down to 220, and they're going to knock out all the bids there. So That's just my thoughts on Domino's Pizza. And yes, the Reverend, I don't know if he's still short Domino's. Maybe we'll get him on later in the week to get some comments on Domino's Pizza.
He was doing well for a while in that, but it's come all the way back. You can't overlive those shorts, I guess, in this market, because eventually, seems like everything eventually comes back. Let's talk MGM. I hope this one's going to come back. I'm actually long. I got stuck with 100 shares overnight. And I was like, well, what can you lose for 100 shares? So I was like, I'll take it through the report, and down $100. So 33.43 is where it's trading at in the pre-market. Spencer, details.
Well, they missed it by a lot. The Q4 adjusted EPS of a 10-cent loss versus an 8-cent estimate. Sales of 2.6 versus 2.51 billion dollars. So a mixed report. A beat on the sales, a miss on the EPS. Again, raising their dividend 11 cents to 12 cents.
It's trading back down near support. This is a small position for me, so I'm probably just going to dump it here sometime in the next, maybe even the pre-market, because it's actually off the pre-market lows. Joel, tell me what I should do with my 100 shares MGM. 110 shares. I guess 110 shares.
You should have sold it on Friday.
I tried. I had a bigger position. I actually got out of some of them after hours on Friday. I did not want to take it through the report. And sometimes, you just get stuck with positions overnight, because I'm trading everything, and you're trading so actively, you forget what you got half the time. I was like, I don't want to take that through the report. So then I'm trying to get a little bit rid of it after hours, got rid of some of it, and got rid of most of it, actually, I think. And obviously stuck with 110 shares. So I don't know what to do now.
All right. Your pre-market.
Sell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends.
But everything comes back.
It could come back. I would just look at the high of that last bar, which was 33.75. That's also mid-range. There, you got another 33.75 print. I mean, if you really want to try and get lucky, put an offer out just below the close. The close yesterday was 34.47. I'd go 34.30 just so you don't miss it if it gets a quick print up here. It's easier to identify support than resistance here. Your pre-market low was 32.75, and that was the area of three lows last week, right in that area as well. So on the rebound off good support, you'll be lucky to see the close. So that'd be a good place to exit.
A lot of other reports. I want to move away from them for a second. If there's one that you want to talk about, like we have MDT reported, Duke Energy reported. There are all some smaller ones here, but there are some interesting other headlines here this morning as well. Let's go to Merger Tuesday, not Merger Monday, but Merger Tuesday. And we got Rite Aid. Somebody else buying the rest of them.
Yeah, Albertsons snatching up the rest of Rite Aid that hadn't been bought by Walgreens. I said CVS in the intro, but it was Walgreens. So they're buying up the remaining Rite Aid stores. Rite Aid shareholders can elect to receive either $1.83 per share in cash and 1 share of Albertsons stock, or 1.079 shares of Albertsons per every share of Rite Aid stock that they own. So a private company, take out no real way to value.
Well, that's the difficult thing, right? Because Albertsons used to be traded here, and now you're getting 1 share of it. Well, I mean, it's a private company, so I don't really know what I'm getting, right? So that makes it a little bit trickier. Maybe that's why Rite Aid is really bouncing around all over the place here, because it's a tricky thing to figure out. You're getting how much cash was that? $1.83?
Yeah, you can choose to receive $1.83 per share in cash and a share of stock, or 1.079 shares outright.
Skaggs Albertsons. What's the symbol on that, Dennis? ABS?
Is Albertsons so is Albertsons? It is not trading anymore, but I bring up ABS. I get proposed. Is it coming back public? Albertsons, are they bringing it back public?
Not to my knowledge. I haven't seen.
That's why I was just wondering, because I just brought up ABS and it says it's proposed symbol. I don't know if that's old. So anyways, I don't follow this story here. So if Albertsons is going to become public, let me know, chat. But obviously, if you're getting shares of a private company, it's difficult to value. Cold Luck is saying yes. Maybe they're planning on coming back public. Cool. Another stock to trade. I hope so.
A lot of volume. A lot of volume trading and Rite Aid.
You know what? That's right. That was a headline from last July. This is a report from. There was a headline we had from Bloomberg. It said they are. It was Albertsons.
Colt says yes. Colts is saying yes in the chat. They're coming back public. Yeah, another stock to trade.
All right, there we go.
Your pre-market high in Rite Aid is 283. You've backed off. I don't know how to value where the deal's going off. I just know there's been a lot of accumulation of this stock under $2, $1.80, $2 area over the past couple months. Thinking that some other potential suitor may come in here. So could see some, some decent selling, and without, really trying to value the deal, it's hard to give you a buy area, but there's been a lot of big buyers down here and in big positions. You don't need a big move. And here you have trading at 251, but your pre-market high was quite a bit above that at 283.
When you got the $1.83 cash thing on it, though, so you know where the floor is. It's anywhere once you start getting near $2. If it was to get ridiculous and people sold it right back off, I mean, you're getting shares of Albertsons too. So I guess, there's going to be, obviously some CFA charter holders out there that can probably crunch the numbers and figure out what those shares are going to be listed at eventually, and then you can go from there. So there's going to be support down beneath here. I think the 213, 225, 230. As you get down the lower twos, you're going to find buyers all over the place for this, in my opinion.
Now that's if it does go into retreat here.
If it goes into retreat, and it might not retreat much farther. Qualcomm, this is an interesting story here, Spencer. They are raising their bid for NXPI. NXPI is trading up 6%. They're raising their bid to 127.5. We know Qualcomm has been buying NXPI for a while, but this is a big middle finger to Broadcom, because we know Broadcom has said they don't want any part of NXPI. They're obviously trying to buy Qualcomm, and they want them to nix the NXPI deal. Not only do they not nix the NXPI deal, but they increase their bid for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it right there. That's the news.
Yeah, I don't know.
All your headlines.
Yeah, this is a real battle going on here with the Qualcomm. They voted it down. Now they're going after NXPI. I'm really not sure what this company's doing. I mean, hard to turn down this offer, which they did, and just wallowing here. Dennis, are you done with that?
I sold part of it.
Yeah,
I sold part of it. Yeah, I sold part of it a couple days ago after the shareholder, or after the the board meeting didn't go that well. But there's still gonna be the vote to the shareholders there, so it's still a wild card. I wasn't enough to get out of it all. I sold part of it at the 65 handle. I took a little gainer on, and I was like, I didn't want to be as big as I was. I felt a little uncomfortable being as big as I was. And so I got to a more comfortable position. I'm going to stick with this. Obviously, if the deal goes through, there's an $82 bid on Broadcom on the table. If the deal can go through and obviously get through antitrust, there's the upside's 82. Downside here, I don't know if there's as much as everybody thinks, because we've had a rally in some of the value tech stocks. Qualcomm is still a value tech stock with a nice dividend of 3.61%. I think even if the deal doesn't go through, I don't see this going back to like $50 or $55. I think it goes maybe 60 if the deal actually gets voted down by shareholders. So I see like 5 points downside and still like 10 to 12 points upside here. So that's why I'm sticking with part of it.
Found a nice buyer at the 62.5 level in the pre-market. That was enough to stop the tide as it went into decline. In order to fill the gap from yesterday, you need to get up to 64.60. That was the low. Friday's close. I'm sure a lot of people would like to see that at 64.85.
Let's jump over here to a few other stocks on the list, and I'm going to go to ratings. We never give ratings a lot of love lately because we haven't had some interesting ones, but this is an interesting one, Spencer. Snap, S-N-A-P. What's this one all about?
Yep, a downgrade to sell at Citigroup. And let me check in my ratings calendar in Pro here. This is first downgrade. Well, there was also a downgrade about 2 weeks ago with Susquehanna. So a couple of downgrades recently from at Snap. This one this morning at Citigroup.
I'll just say this is to sell. Price target $14. So they're basically saying this is going to give back all of its earnings gap, because that's where it came from. It was $14. They reported that blowout quarter, and obviously really ran up that day. Got frothy up to 21. So now you have a big analyst coming out with a bold call saying, nope, they don't buy it, and they're actually selling it. Down to 14 is where they think it's eventually going. It's down $1 here in the pre-market, so they are hitting it hard, down 5%. Thoughts on this one, Joel?
It actually hit the high on the day of that earnings report, which I think is really
never got back over.
Yeah, never got back up there. Challenged it the next day, so 21.22 was the high of the move. You are trading down a stick here, but man, there's a buyer out here at the 19.25 level. For right now, supporting the stock. Some volume traded. You have some daily lows to look at. And the thing is that if you can't hold that pre-market low right here at this 19.25 area, then you got a nice drop into the lower 18 handle. I see a low at 1821 and 1833, and that was flanked by a 52 low. So I don't know. The fact that it's stopping here and not going down anymore makes me think you might get a little pop. Maybe get a chance to get into yesterday's range, or you get a gap fill in 1975. But
I'd be a seller up there.
Yeah.
You get anywhere back near that $20, and I think they're gonna line up. So I think that's a nice resistance point. So if you can get a pop back, and you do see people come in and buy the dip and they get a little excited sometimes. I think it's back near 20. I think you have a wall of sellers.
Yeah. Now, as far as getting back down to $14, that would be a gap fill from earnings here. The low on earnings day was 1696. So got some technical levels to go through before you even get close to filling that gap.
And then the other ratings of note here, Spencer, we got Chipotle, which has been on a monster run ever since they got the new CEO. Was it CEO?
Yep, the CEO from Taco Bell, Chipotle, catching an upgrade this morning from Stiefel.
Monster.
From Stiefel this morning, sell to hold is the upgrade.
So it's an upgrade this morning, and it's trading down. That's interesting. In any regard here, the stock has had an incredible 4-day run. And if you just want to, look, we were everybody's throwing it off at $250 back on February the 13th. So here we are 4 trading sessions later, trading 305. So you're talking about a 50-point run. You're talking about 20% move in 4 trading days. It's a big move. I can't chase it up here. I think it's now gotten a little bit overdone for the new CEO. But that being said, it's upgraded here this morning, Stiefel, just to neutral though.
Remember we were looking at that pre-market chart last week, and it had the big gap up to like the 280, 281 area, but it wasn't going any lower, and you were thinking, wow, how is this going to have an immediate impact? But, that held, that 280 level. 281 was actually the low that day. And then, the rest is history. It got up to 306 on Friday. The high close in the move has been 305.63. So if it does get a rally off that, keep an eye on those 2 levels. Coming back on the downside, if this thing really does go into reverse, there's really nowhere to hide. Your lows from Thursday and Friday were in the lower 286 handle, or 286.16 and 286.76. So I don't know. I mean, it's an upgrade. It's trading down on the upgrade. Maybe get a look at Friday's high. But if you're trading this from the long side after that gap up, just be cognizant. Maybe use 300 as a psychological level, because there's nothing under there for $14.
Walmart continues to leak here. I think that 96.43 might come into play here today. That's the low from February 9th, so we'll reiterate that price again. That's a level I'd be watching if I was short this thing. That might be a bounce level. It's down only $1 away from there now, down 7%. It is dragging down a lot of the other retailers as well, especially the comparables like Costco is down $3. Target is trading down $2 here in the pre-market. But if you just jump over into all the retailers, they're all looking a little bit weaker here this morning. Target and Costco really taking on the chin as well, though.
Yeah, they beat on revenues. They didn't like the EPS number, and they raised the dividend. So
it ran up, though. I mean, look at the Walmart run. And this is, a little rant here I can go on, but this is, why I'm a long-term contrarian investor. Now, I'm a trader. As a trader, I'm primarily a momentum trader, because that's just what works, at least in this market over the last 5 years. But as an investor, I still like to buy stocks when everybody else hates them. I like to sell them when everybody else loves them. And if you look at Walmart, we could go right back here. Everybody had this thing for dead back in 2015. The stock got down to $56. I said multiple times in the show, I wanted to buy it. I never pulled the trigger because I was hoping it would get back to 50. That was my level. So I missed it for $6, which is terrible, obviously. But the stock has run up since then. Now it's just gone, let's put it in perspective. We went from $56 2 years ago up to $105 on one of the biggest retailers, if not the biggest retailer in the world. It's just too much. It's ran up too much. They needed to blow it away for it to continue to go higher. They did not do that. Obviously, it was an earnings miss. So I'm not surprised at all the stock is trading down. It was simply too frothy. It's run up too much in the last couple of years, and that's why it's coming off. Everybody's expectations are way too high.
We are a few seconds here from imbalances. Probably going to see some sell imbalances here, as I'd imagine. As the S&Ps are in the red by 10.25.
Not big though, Joel. They're pretty small actually. There is some GE has 129,000 to sell. You were saying it was on the cover of Barron's and they weren't giving it a lot of love, so that's not surprising. The steel stocks, they're looking like with some sell imbalances this morning. I tell you, that steel, which we have not covered yet, had an incredible Friday. The steel stocks were absolute monsters. Bring up U.S. Steel. It went from $38 up to $45. It's obviously on, possible tariff stuff is what, the catalyst, I believe, was there, if my goldfish memory serves me well. But, you can look at AKS was up significantly. Nucor Steel, NUE, up significantly on Friday. So these are looking like they might leak a little bit of those gains here, just maybe a little bit too much too fast. U.S. Steel, 186,000 to sell this morning. Morgan Stanley, 60,000 to sell. Twitter, 68,000 to sell. Nike, 41,000 to sell. Square's 46,000 to buy. That's interesting. So it's got a buy and bounce. Actually, Pfizer, 81,000 to sell. Kind of mixed. It's kind of mixed here. But what do you think of those? Let's go back to the steel stocks.
Oh.
What do you think about these moves, man? I mean, this is an incredible U.S. Steel move. When it got up to $45 here on Friday from $38 the day before.
One of the biggest moves you've seen in that, I think, probably since post-election trading. 44.75 was your close. Your high on Friday was 45.44. Now that we're trading in the red here, really, the longer it takes this thing to get back to the close of 44.75 and to go green on the session, think you could see some profit taking in there. I know it was talks about possible tariffs. I don't know if there's anything that's actually been approved, but be careful. If you want the run to continue, you want to see this, get back in the upper 44 handle, test that close and make a run at 45.44. That's your highest level in this stock since you hit 46.55. That was back in September of 2014. So X needs to get off the mat here early, or could definitely get back some of those gains that you had in Friday's big session.
Give me thoughts on Nucor. I own this one in my invest portfolio. I've had it in there for, 6 or 7 years. Out of steel stocks, I still like this one the best. But I'll tell you, I am starting to get itchy here up at the $70 level, and it's such a big move. We were 60 a week and a half ago. Now we're going back to that major wall of resistance up at 70. I'm almost tempted to dump this out of my invest portfolio around $70. I've actually got it listed on my sheet of something to do today to sell Nucor in the 69 handle if it can get there again. What are your thoughts here as a 70 has been major resistance for a long time for NUE?
Oh, boy, you hit a wall at that $70 level in January. So seller, after seeing it go back down to 60, I think your sellers are going to step down here.
That's me.
Yeah. 68 would be my level. I know you traded up to 69.50 on Friday, but you traded 67.99 on January 31st, and that was the day before it hit, and the day after it hit 70. So, hold out for that 69.5, 70 area. If not, 68 might not be a bad area as well. I think this is back near all-time high. No, not all-time highs. Back and before the financial crisis, this traded up to 83.56. But you got company there, Dennis, trying to sell it at 70 over the next couple of weeks. So hope it gets up there for you.
Jump over to. We got 2 minutes here before our guest, so one more stock we can just cover basically. Where do you want to
go? Let's go to.
Want to go Riot? Let's go Riot.
Oh yeah.
Okay, just cover it from Friday. We know with CNBC report, obviously hit the stock hard, kept going down there. We bounced near that $10 level. $10 where we got down to, if we look actually 10.40, 10.55, where we got down to February 6th and February 5th. Interesting level because we bounced right at the same level again on Friday, 10.55. We are breaching it slightly here in the pre-market, 10.50. If this thing takes out $10, lights out. But if it can hold, this is the level right now. This is where it needs to hold.
Yeah, I did get a little bit of a bounce. Very bad day on Friday. So if you're looking at this from the long side, you're hoping for a rebound rally. You want to get green on the session at 11.46. Right now, that doesn't look great. Spoos are a little bit on the rebound. I don't know if that's going to help Riot very much. 10.55, that was your low from Friday's session, but just not doing a lot here. I mean, you do have a quiet buyer in here because 10.30 to 10.50 has held up since 7:30 a.m. But if you're looking for this to go back to, where it came from before this whole blockchain stuff started, that was 406. So just keep an eye on that $10 level. $4 is where it was before. I think they changed the name and got everything going in the northerly direction.
8:35. Let's bring on Nick Chahine, author of Create Income with Option Spreads on MarketFi. Nick, how's it going?
Going well. Good morning.
Good morning. What's on your radar this morning?
Just to see the market action. We kind of had two little mini tizzies overnight, I should say over the weekend, given that yesterday the U.S. equities were closed. And I don't see a reason why they're dipping, so I wouldn't be scared at the open if they wanted to revisit some lows. Whatever you had going on last week should be going on here.
Nick, jump over into some of these movers that we've had from last week and just put it all in perspective. I mean, here's the market. Let's go to the SPY first of all, because here's the market. We get absolutely annihilated, and we've bounced back, and we've bounced back significantly. I think we're 65 or 68% back from the lows here just a week and a half ago. NASDAQ has gotten back even more of the lows. I mean, it's such a wicked bounce with really, after that Friday where we reversed 1,000 points, we really haven't had much of a pullback since. What are your thoughts here overall in this market as we've gotten back almost, at least 3/4 of the losses?
Yeah. Well, as far as the S&P is concerned, it got tested based on a little market dizzy that the whole globe decided that it was the end of the world. And as far as bounces, I'm going to put the E-minis instead of the SPY just because I have a few lines that I'd drawn that would make sense. Okay, so the bounce took us down to the 2500s, which was more than anybody expected so quickly. And now they're raising their eyebrows. How come we rebounded so quickly? Like the last two V recoveries never happened. I mean, there were experts that were saying, what the heck happened? This is too fast. Well, worst happened during the elections and Brexit. I thought it was scarier then than now. And we had a couple of levels that we blew through on the upside. So now they're puzzled. Well, to me, it's very easy. They wanted to test the floor and they went further. And that floor was around 2680. And now we rallied through it. And now we're testing it from above. So what do they say? Resistance, support. So whatever was resistance before, they broke through it a while back, and then they tried to test it. They broke through it on the way down, and now they're above it. It's a pivot point. So it's a pendulum going about a pivot point. And they wanted to see the bulls and bears are fighting it out to see if it's going to hold that support for a future rebuild. So the only reason to me, logically, to tell me that, okay, this is not going to hold that support zone, I'm not talking a hard line in the sand, is that the actual fundamentals are not as good. Or there is something that's going to come in and say, hey, the fundamentals are great, but look at this is much, much worse. So I don't see that yet. So until the bond market says, okay, we're going to collapse or something and change the game completely, or currency is going to collapse, or something new that's going to come up, the environment favors the bullish thesis because you don't see, like Walmart is falling 6% this morning, yet the PE is under, 26, 25. Trailing PE, not like forward speculation PE. Apple is under 17. I keep going to these big guys because they are mathematically a big chunk of the actual indices. So if you want to punish the SPY for going up too fast, I mean, how far are you going to punish Apple? Apple at 130, you think there'll be buyers? I think there will be buyers.
I'll be a buyer.
Right. So you can't deny the math that's in there. You have to change the game somehow. So you need a different version of the headlines or different new headlines that will scare people.
Nick, I want to ask you about that move in Apple last week. You were on early in the week, and it just started to have its run here. From 150 to 175. I knew you were playing, on the long side there, but what do you think? You just got caught some people short there, exercised some puts on that Friday, the big day. What do you see behind the Apple move, and what do you see moving forward? You hit 175 on Friday, 174.82. That coincides with the 174.95 high from January 25th. Thoughts on Apple?
Sure. The Apple sell-off was kind of weird. I don't know. I'm not an expert as to when companies are allowed to buy back their stock or not.
Okay.
But something weird happened in Apple. There was, maybe it was related to somebody liquidating Apple to fulfill some margin, like everybody was saying, speculating that the VIX blew up some people's accounts and they needed to go to their piggy bank, and piggy bank usually includes Apple. So they sell it as because it's liquid, they can sell it and get back into it pretty quickly. So I'm not sure if they sold it and they had to buy back their positions later. This is above my pay grade. So, but that's my speculation. As far as levels, I can trade Apple within that environment. So when it sold off, and if you do your homework on Apple and you know that the world's not going to end macroeconomically, then you get the gonads to go ahead and buy the dip, so to speak, whichever way you do it. So I can speak backwards to your comedian friend and say, I would have sold puts and put spreads to generate income out of nothing in Apple. Or if I actually buy stock, Apple stock, I would have bought the dip. I said, okay, to me, I could risk a little money downside on Apple and say, okay, if it was at 155, I sold puts in the 40s and made money on it. So I sold, to say it in plain simple English, I sold somebody a lottery ticket down that Apple will go to 142, I think, whatever it was, a level, something ridiculous. And they bought the lottery ticket and they obviously lost because I collected a premium for them to hold that ticket. And if Apple didn't get there, the money is mine. And it didn't get there, so the money was mine. So you can take that money and buy whatever you want with it, or you can say, hey, I just made money out of thin air just because of a market-wide whoosh that took everything down with it.
Nick Big T in the chat wants to know about NVIDIA, NVDA. That stock is trading green and bucking the trend in the pre-market. Spencer, I don't know if I saw a headline there, if it's trading up it's up $1 here now. Not sure if there was some analyst commentary or nothing. Maybe you can dig through the pro for a minute. But I'll just tell you, NVIDIA, this stock kind of looks like it's itching to go to all-time highs. My opinion here is if this thing can get over 250, it'd be off to the races again. Thoughts?
Well, that is all-time highs, is it not? I mean, I'm looking at
it's right chart there, but I'm just looking. There's a little bit. If I'm looking the 249.27 we got to back in January, and then we kind of got up to 250 and kissed it on Friday. Got to get over 250.
Oh, come on. If a stock like this, I use a marker. You're not going to use a 0.05 millimeter pencil on that.
So you like it or you don't like it?
Well, I'll tell you one thing: you don't short it. If you were hunting, if you were a lion chasing gazelles, is this the gazelle you're going to chase, the one that's jumping and kicking up in the air, or you want to chase the one that's limping? This is definitely not the one to play around with shorting. The NVIDIA story is almost like Tesla minus the problems. The forward thinking is so muddled. Like, I don't know. I thought NVIDIA was only just about good graphics, but suddenly now it's about everything in my life, apparently. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I can't refute it. So there's no way people can short it unless they do a lot of homework on it. And I doubt anybody's going to say, hey, it's too high. So here's the thing. I use it as a so-called rabbit, just like I used Apple as rabbit. Every day I tell my people, here's the rabbit today. So, and in this case, it's the leader. And on the way up, if it's leading, then the whole market is probably in good shape as a sentiment, because the only thing that's changing these days is sentiment. And so you look at it and you see what's going on with a leader stock, and then you say, okay, maybe sentiment is a little better than everybody's expecting, or a little better than what the Dow is showing, minus 140 point open. Look at what the leader is doing. Chances are the non-leader is going to look around and say, wait a minute, these guys are running, we should run. Apple overnight got tested. I think the low was like 170 and change, and now it's $2 higher than that. What do you think is going to happen when Apple flips green? Other stocks are going to look and say, okay, other buyers are going to step into their favorite stocks. NVIDIA is one of those favorite stocks. So yeah, if I were to take a flyer, but I have to develop a macro picture. So first, what does the world look like? And to me, I just told you what it looks like. It looks like what it looked like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when before this correction happened. Nothing's changed. We still have the taxes. We still have Trump. We still have all the problems, and the fundamentals are still okay. So, if you wanted to go long something and you go long NVIDIA, I'm not going to say you're an idiot.
Joel trying to talk to you, but he's on mute.
I am. Nick,
I can see him talking over there.
You can see me talking. What about?
He doesn't want to show at least, Nick. So.
What about?
It's his trademark.
what about oil? Can we do just a quick recap on oil here? You'd had the big dip. You got over well into the 66 handle. People calling for $80 and nice pullback here. If you thought you were okay buying at 60, you took some heat, went under 59, found some very, very good support here in the $58 handle. What are you looking for on this rebound in crude oil?
Okay, I have to tell you that fundamentally, I'm not on board with the $80. And in fact, I think the day that $80 came out, that was probably the high from, I think it was Goldman Sachs, right? So I'm not as I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of high oil just because it's not like it rallied because of demand. I don't think there's that much extra demand on oil than there was 6 months ago. There were a few technicals. The chart is so busy right now. I could share the bigger time frame chart to show you how it fell apart. I'm not on board with it going to 80. I was on board going from the low 50s to the 60 level just on pure technicals, and from there at the 68 level just on pure technicals. So the correction just was normal to me and expected. Now, what gave oil the runway to run was the dollar collapsing. So if you think our dollar is going into the toilet, yeah, maybe it'll get to 80. But if the dollar based, and today I think it's moving higher, if the dollar based, then oil will have headwind, because anything denominated in dollar, anything that's priced in dollar, if the dollar is rallying, anything priced in dollar will have downside pressure.
Also coming out of the chat, this is a wild one here. ISRG, Intuitive Surgical, is that a little bit high price stocks. That's something you keep an eye on. JAR, maybe he's looking to short this.
What? Okay. No, I don't short ISRG ever. I used to try to be cute and do iron condors on it, but I feel better about it that anytime it dips or anytime it's stable, I sell puts or put spreads in it for income. This is a company that was well managed. I don't know and all the fundamentals. All I know that at one point they had extremely bad news with some sort of arcing in one of the lasers, which was theoretically killing people or putting people in danger, and it shrugged it off. So I wouldn't short it unless he knows or she knows something about it, specifically why they need to short it. Fundamentally, like one of their machines falling out of, somebody's going to come in and just offer a cheaper, better. If you're trying to do a price action thing, I wouldn't short it. I don't have that much gumption in me to courage in me to short it. 420, this is a stock that split. So it was more expensive than this. And I know a lot of people in your chat room like it. And I wouldn't short it just based on price action. In fact, I would take advantage of any dips and high VIX. Hint, hint, hint. This high VIX, if it doesn't make sense to everybody, offers option players a lot of opportunities. In normal VIX, if VIX was around 10 or 11 normal by like recent normal, where it's been in the toilet, I couldn't have sold those Apple 142, whatever they were, puts and made money off of them. But because the VIX is so inflated, it's elevated, I should say, whether inflated or not is a different thing, that it allows for selling premium. So just be careful what you're buying and selling.
Nick, talk about that action for the last couple of weeks, because you must be loving it as an option writer to see that VIX when it spiked up to, well, I got up to 49, was only there for a day, but, up over 20, up over 25, 30. I mean, this is your payday, right? When you get the VIX this high.
It is. So anybody that says, okay, let's go long Apple and buy calls, they do buy calls, they get the direction correctly, and Apple starts to climb, and then the market is settling down, and then suddenly they say, hey, I'm not getting enough profits in my calls. That's because it's being offset largely by a collapsing VIX. So anything you buy when VIX is elevated, even the calls that you bought, it was overpriced, and you went and bought it and guessed correctly, and price is moving towards it, yet you're not getting the juice green in your portfolio, and you're wondering why. That's because the VIX is falling, and that prices out everything. So the premium you paid may take a little bit to kick in, and if you chose a call that's too high, then you're probably going to lose, even though you picked the correct direction, because you didn't pick the correct level. So it's best to sell risk if you know your parameters. So sell risk into volatility is dangerous, and that's why they're rewarding you extra. So a high VIX means that if you sell a premium, if you sell a put, it's going to be priced higher than the normal, right? So yes, it does make for some interesting income creating opportunity, but you have to have a thesis. You can't just sell for the sake of selling, because the other side is not an idiot. They're going to sell you based on the risk that you're taking. They give you based on your risk that you're taking. So somebody says, oh my gosh, look how much you're paying me. There's probably a reason. So do your homework and find out. If you know that everything around that, the thing you sold is under control, and you know you have a good grasp of it, then go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you're just selling premium into risk that actually exists.
All right, Spencer, do you have anything else, or you want to wrap things up here?
Well, Ed Parker, what about Ed? He wants to know about Tesla.
Okay. All right, we'll finish up with Tesla. Nick, thoughts on Tesla?
Okay, Tesla, I don't know what it's doing this morning, but there are a couple of levels that it's ping-ponging before, and I think you covered it over the week. I don't know if it was on the segment last week or listening to your show during the week. It's ping-ponging between two levels. I have them somewhere around the 300 and somewhere around the 348 or 50, let's call it. So it's towards the upper end of that level. So unless it breaks through that level, then technically it can gather steam higher. I wouldn't be a buyer of Tesla up here, but as a speculative play, hey, there's no better speculative stock than this guy. So, hey, finally, I see a Tesla Model 3. In fact, it was parked in front of my house.
Oh, I saw one this weekend too, Nick. I saw one this weekend too. It was kind of dirty. But
Yesterday, I walked outside to work on my truck, and it was parked right behind it. So I thought he got scared and moved, because it's a massive truck and old and beat up, and he saw me under it. He's like, oh, I better move away from this guy. And he just moved away. But this was the second one I've seen. And I live in Tesla country in Southern California.
All right. So we've been on the line with Nick Chahine. He's the author of Create Income with Option Spreads. He joins the show every Tuesday to share his technical and fundamental outlook on the market. Nick, thanks a lot. We'll speak to you again soon.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick.
S&P futures, really, for the big range that we had in the overnight session, kind of quiet here, just bouncing between 27.18 and 27.20. Really nothing special. Your pre-market low down at 27.09, and then your after-hours high made Sunday night. That was way up at 2747.75. Have we got all of our earnings plays in for today?
There's a couple of smaller ones there, and this week it's starting to quiet down. I mean, we're starting to come out of the earnings season. We do have some retailers that are going to report. We have Dillard's going to report there tonight. If you want to jump over, MDT is always an interesting one. Medtronic, we haven't given the numbers for it yet. It's trading up about 70 cents in the pre-market. Spencer, you got the Medtronic report, MDT?
MDT, I actually don't have those numbers in front of me. Let me go to the
PR. Did they report?
I don't know if
I think
they
should have. It's up.
Yeah, they reported.
Let me go. We got to
Here,
hunt those. I threw Spencer under the bus there.
$7.4 billion in revenue. GAAP EPS of $1.03. Non-GAAP.
Medtronic.
Non-GAAP $1.17.
The GAAP, non-GAAP stuff coming into play here again. Yeah. Medtronic trading up here. It's had a nice comeback. This stock has been, it's kind of just, and if you look over the monthlies, really in the last 2 years, it's been range bound between 70 and 90. So here we are at $84. Yes, it's up a little bit on the report, but really kind of in the middle of nowhere. You look up at that 86, 87, you see all kinds of resistance. You look down to 78, 80, you see all kinds of support. So it's a stock just been range bound.
And you're coming up, let's just call it 88, the recent high of the move, and then you had a breakdown to 77. So 9-point move, once again, 4.5. You're getting over the 50% retracement area. So we will look at for a daily high now, and you do have a daily high at 84.58. That was on February 5th. Above that, you did find sellers in the 85 handle on 2 consecutive days, February 1st and February 2nd. So a little bit of overhead resistance. Good support at 82 for now. Your 2 lows from Thursday and Friday, 81.95 and 82.12. So that is your good support in MDT. Roku, boy, that's a wild stock. They got earnings tomorrow. Let's take a look at how this stock is done. Man, well, it made a new all-time high. Peeled back here, Dennis. Any thoughts on Roku here going into the report? Trading up a buck.
What exactly do they do? And this is, me, old school, and not knowing all these new companies. Spencer, I'll throw you under the bus here. Do you know what Roku exactly does?
Yeah, I use a Roku. Do you have
What is it?
Do you have Apple TV, or do you know what that is?
Yeah, I have Apple TV.
It's the same exact thing, just not Apple.
So this is an Apple TV, basically copies off of it. It's got to be different somehow.
Who's to say who copies off who? But it's the same. It's the same. It's the same concept. No, it's the same concept. It's the pipes through which you watch your Netflix, your Hulu, your HBO. Your
what about
whatever.
Is this incorporated into like the smart TVs and stuff?
Yeah,
is that how
it's built into TVs, and so
so this is like when I have one smart TV. Is Roku maybe the thing that's powering that smartness?
I don't know what TV you have, but so you can buy the piece of hardware, or in some cases it's built into the TV.
Okay.
It's just the pipes. It's the pipes through which you watch your Netflix.
Well, now we know what Roku does, so that's good.
Well, now you know.
Technically speaking, $40 has been an absolute support level, the support level of all support levels. So if when do they report?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, Roku earnings are tomorrow, according to Buy.
So for whatever reason they decide to hit it. I mean, 40 is huge, and that's obviously significantly lower. I don't know what the options are expecting on this thing, but it's been running up. So $50, you're kind of in the middle. Again, you've been range bound between 40 and call it 59, $60 there since November. We got down to 40 and tested it multiple times in January, multiple times in February. We've bounced out of it now. Pre-earnings run here again, and I play those pre-earnings runs, and I'll tell you, that's one of my most consistent trades from a swing trading perspective is buying the stocks, even a few days to a week, 4 or 5 days ahead of the earnings report and selling them ahead of the earnings report. That just seems to be money more times than not. And we're seeing it again here in Roku. So, you could say, well, market has helped, and it definitely has. But you see these pre-earnings runs, and we're getting it a little bit in Roku here again. Especially up to this morning. It's up $2 and a down tape.
Yeah, and just a step-up buyer here. Just can't get enough stock. All the lows since that 4 o'clock opening, they've made pretty much higher. You had a little dip, 47, 42, but higher lows here. Someone's just pressing this thing higher. And
positive comments this morning. No, that's what's helped it. So Roku is added to the positive catalyst watch list at Citi. I don't know what that list means, but they see potential upside from their fourth quarter results. So Citi's positive ahead of the quarter. That's why it's up.
Filling a gap from January 4th, where you gap down from 50.21 to 48.99. So if you've been holding out for that gap fill, there is your opportunity. The close, if you want to pick a number above that, you had a close on January 4th at 51.24. That was after a 4-day drop from 55.44 here. So there's a couple other filling the gap, a couple other objectives, 51.24. Then opens up to 52.78. Last stock of the day, I can't feel my Facebook is coming in. Have we talked about STMP yet? Stamps.com. No, trading up $1.85. Before I make any comments here, do we have any news on Stamps.com?
No, I do not schedule to report today.
Okay. All right. Moving higher here. Let's see if there's any value.
It's not. It's an odd lot. It's traded through a bunch of odd lots traded at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then a couple more odd lots at 7:30 at 188.50, which has been the offer I think all morning here. So I would say that strike those from the tape. That's just small price from small retail buyers.
All right. You want to see get green on the session, close near the low. Well, it is green right now, but on an odd lot offered at 88.50. Target on the upside, 92.60. That was Friday's high, and Friday's low is way down at 86.60. So this thing could move anywhere today. All right, Spencer, do you want to wrap things up and preview Wednesday's show?
On Wednesday's show, we got JC Perret on with us. He's the author of All-Star Charts. Always good. Loves his charts. Pure technician there. So we got JC on Bring Your Tickers for JC tomorrow. If you want to catch any part of today's show again, catch the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, or go to youtube.com/BenzingaTV. Thanks to our guest, Nick Chahine. Thanks to those of you who joined us in our chat at premarket.benzinga.com and on YouTube. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. We will see you folks tomorrow.